Hello, gang. Tattooed Biker here with you, and welcome back to Weird Wednesdays. Tonight's episode, we dive into the mysterious world of Bigfoot and Sasquatch encounters. So I'll be sharing some true stories submitted by you, my incredible community. Now grab your beverage of choice, settle in, and let's kick off these tales of real-life encounters with the enigmatic creature known as Bigfoot. Now we ride to Washington State. Number 1. Dear Tattooed, I wanted to share this story, though it doesn't involve a sighting. It involves all the other evidence that's difficult to ignore. We've bought land in Washington recently. It'll be about a year before we start building there, but we visit periodically, and I just came back from a 2-day camping trip on the land. A few months back, we pulled into a dirt road leading onto our property and noticed a perfect pyramid of trees that had been interlocked into a tapestry that simply couldn't have happened by human hands. One reason is that the pyramid, like interlocking, was done with such skill. It was at least 6 feet up off the ground. We joke that maybe some teenagers could have done it, but I personally doubted that some kids could climb up the trees and successfully bend tree trunks into an interlocking grid that high up. It would take far too much force and power. I don't even think grown men could get such thick trees to bend in this fashion. The trunks had to have been at least 8 to 9 inches in diameter, so we're talking strong tree trunks, not bendable baby limbs. Fast forward to the previous weekend, we pulled onto our property late at night after sundown, arriving late on Friday night. Within 5 minutes of arriving, I heard loud, haunting, ape-like howls that didn't sound like anything. Like not a wolf, a bear, or normal animal sound. I've spent enough time in the woods in my life to know when I'm hearing something that isn't elk, bear, owl, or dog. These owls were almost human-like, and it was clear that something enormous was sending a message out there. It happened 4 to 5 times before it stopped. We slept the first night without issue, except for one thing. The very next morning, a tree had been bent like a perfect rainbow, directly over the trail, maybe 10 feet away from our truck. Perfectly going over the trail in an upside-down U over the road. The second night was the night that was remarkable. Within 15 minutes of hitting the sack in our teardrop trailer, windows were open and I was enjoying the forest breeze. I immediately heard footsteps, distinct, bipedal footsteps, walking around the trailer. It moved with a pace that was distinctly 2-footed, and it was clearly large, much like a metronome beating. Leaves were all over the ground, which made it easier to hear the pacing footsteps. This went on for at least an hour, then suddenly stopped. I placed my hand in a cup-like position behind my ears to help increase my hearing abilities. I fell asleep for a few hours, but then awoke to the same human-like crunching footsteps right outside the trailer. I then heard actual talking from what I believe was a Bigfoot. One might say it was gibberish, but to be honest, it was clear they had an actual language. Somehow I felt that it was female. The obvious, soft vocalization sounded like some sort of affirmation-sounding noises. It sounded like words, only the voice was clearly deep and resonant, not the sort of voice a regular human could emulate due to the depth. I'm sure it wasn't humans pranking us. It spoke softly to another one by using some sort of enunciation, and so this was no longer just howling, but literally some type of talking. Obviously it wasn't English, but it was most certainly a human-like vocal tone communicating. Next, I heard the trees begin to bend. If you can imagine a bending noise, sort of like a screeching, pushing every 5 seconds. This went on for over an hour. Screech, push, pause. Screech, push, pause. This pattern of pushing and pausing went on for a long time. And it was happening directly outside the teardrop trailer. I knew I was going to wake up to more bending activities. For some reason, I didn't feel scared. I've always been a little psychic when it comes to feeling intentions of humans or animals around me. Something deep inside of me felt that these beings were loving and kind, sort of like protectors of the forest. I listened to them as long as I could, until I was just too tired to continue, and then I fell asleep again. The following morning, there were 3 more trees perfectly folded and curved, like rainbow arches, right over the trail next to our truck. One was directly at the nose of the truck. Somehow I feel that they were saying welcome. I think they know we purchased the land. Look, if they had wanted to hurt us, they certainly could have. They never touched our things, messed with the trailer, nor did they attempt to scare us. If anything, it was like they were attempting to not scare us and wanted to be as quiet as possible. I felt that the female was guiding the whole event that night. Can anyone out there tell me more about these tree-bending formations? And if there's any clues as to which formations might mean something? My heart tells me that they did this to say hello in their own way. It hasn't scared us, and we still plan on building there. I had an idea that if we go camping there again in the fall, I'm going to tie flowers around the trunks that they bend to let them know that we accept you and we understand. I refuse to have bad feelings between the Bigfoot and us. I want us to cohabitate on the land peacefully. My first impressions of these beings is that they are not out to hurt anyone, and that they might even be able to communicate with humans if humans would treat them with respect and not try to hunt them. Clearly, they're going to be more intelligent than the regular large apes around the world. They're bipedal and obviously have above average intelligence, judging by the fact that I seem to have heard an actual language coming out of one. Thanks for reading, and I hope to see this one in one of your videos. Number 2. I'm sending you my 2 encounters with what can only be described as a Sasquatch. I'm an Algonquin Cree First Nations man, and this happened when I was about 35 or 36 years old. I've been hunting since I was a child, and I know every animal in my region. This absolutely could not be a misidentification on my part. I've been hunting all my life, and I can identify all the animals here. The following 2 encounters, which I experienced in 2 subsequent years in the exact same location. The first encounter, I was out solo hunting for moose in the fall. I parked my truck at a gravel pit and walked 1.5 to 2 kilometers to a nearby lake at approximately 2 to 3 p.m. On my way to the lake, I came across a very large pile of trees that was blocking the path. Looking back and reflecting, this should have been a very clear warning that something was amiss. But please remember, I didn't believe in Sasquatch at this point in time. By this time, I had spotted a bull moose in the lake, and that's what I was focused on. I noticed the bull was eating plants from the bottom of the lake. I can't recall the name of the plant the moose was eating, but I know it visually, and it's supposed to be super nutritious for them. I was able to see the moose clearly as the game trail goes down from the pit to the lake below. Anyways, I sling my .30-06 rifle over my shoulders and began climbing over the fallen trees. The pile of green, fresh leaves were very sappy and was piled about 10 feet high. I didn't go around because the sides were really thick underbrush and I would have gotten tangled in it. So I climb over it. At the apex of the pile, I noticed a square hole, about 1 to 1.5 feet wide. I thought, that's weird. I went over to it and looked down into the hole. Now I'm looking down and I see a head. As I'm looking closer, I clearly see a grayish-black face staring at me. And there it is. Its lip curled up and it's showing me these yellow-stained teeth, much like a shark. I'm thinking that this can't be real. There's no way this is real. I close my eyes a second and give my head a shake and look again. This thing is still there, almost grinning. Well, that scared the absolute crap out of me. I stand up and unsling my rifle and throw it to the bottom of the pile. I take a few steps and jump down beside the rifle. Then I hear it, making a howling sound. The tree pile begins to move. I picked up my gun and run for my truck. All the way up the hill as I hear this thing, matching my steps, step for step. While this is happening, I hear many strange vocals and trees being snapped. I was too scared to look back, I kid you not. Off in the distance, behind me, and this thing is just hearing more trees being broken. I finally get to my truck, hop in, and drive home, pretty much on autopilot in record time, all the while watching my side and rearview mirrors. To be clear, I didn't see its body. That didn't happen until my second encounter. Man, oh man, let me tell you. The second time in the same spot was even scarier. I went back the following year thinking no way do I see a sabe twice, especially in the same area. As luck or fate would have it, you guessed it, I saw it again in broad daylight on a game trail. It happened same as before. I parked my truck at the gravel pit and start walking the game trail to the lake that's about 1.5 to 2 kilometers away. Remember that I've had an encounter in this exact same spot a year prior. By this time a year has passed and I've convinced myself that what I saw couldn't have possibly been real. I started out and came to the spot where I saw the grinning sabe. When I get to the spot, the big pile of trees is gone, just gone, with no signs of any leftover trees from the year before. I look around the area for signs of the felled trees and there's nothing, and it's very strange. I shrug it off thinking there has to be a logical explanation. Anyway, I start hiking again and I hear a moose off in the distance. I get my rifle out and go around a bend on the trail. And, as luck would have it, the young bull is within shooting distance. I load my rifle, take a knee, and start breathing slowly for a good shot. I take aim and snap. A tree is broken directly behind me. Immediately, I go into defense mode. I whirl around, pointing my gun, expecting to see another moose or maybe a bear. But what I see standing there is no bear or moose. It's this god-awful, hideous humanoid. It's staring at my gun. Its eyes are darting back and forth from my gun to my eyes. Those eyes were just nightmarish and huge, solid black with no whites. This thing, upon seeing it, the very first thought that popped into my head was, oh my God, is this a demon? I'm dead. I look at its blackish gray face and it's got these super deep wrinkles in its forehead. What I immediately notice is the placement of its eyes. One seems slightly lower on its face than the other eye. Almost half an inch out of place, like almost on top of its cheekbone. The head is not sloped or domed. It's like ours, only much larger. Its upper lip is curled, revealing those damn shark teeth I saw with the last one. Yellow stained teeth like triangles. I noticed one was chipped or broken. So there it is, standing there, maybe only 4 or 5 feet away from me. This thing is giving off a death vibe, 100% predator. I start weighing my options on a shot placement. I look at the rest of its body and it's covered in wispy hair, maybe 4 to 6 inches long. It's obviously hair, not fur, as it's clearly blowing with the wind. Now this creature isn't a whole lot taller than I am. I stand 6 feet tall. Now the muscles on this thing, nothing short of a bodybuilder. It would put a bodybuilder to shame, I think, if it comes down to it. I think if I were to have a chance, I'd have to aim for the eye. That's the other weird thing. This thing approached from downwind, and to me, that's intelligence. Upon looking at the body, I noticed that it has patches of missing hair on its chest area. Now, for the skeptics out there, this absolutely could not have been a misidentification on my part. I've seen bears with mange over my lifetime of hunting, and this was 100% not a bear. I say that because this damn thing has hands. Yes, hands with opposable thumb. I clearly saw its hands because it put up its outstretched hand like a human would to indicate stop or don't shoot. On its other hand, which is at its side, is where I see long, black, cracked fingernails. These look just like human fingernails, only sharper and longer. Underneath the missing hair is a gray skin that looks like something rubbed it off, repeating a task many times. I look down at its feet, and yes, it has feet, not paws. By this time, I've started talking Cree language to it. I'm telling it, look, I don't know you, and I know you can hurt me, and I can hurt you. That's not what I want. I've caught you trying to sneak up on me. I only want to leave. It never answered me. Rather, it leaned back with its long arm and caught itself. Both feet were planted, and the other arm was supporting its weight on the ground, all the while holding its outstretched hand in the stop or don't shoot motion. Upon seeing this, I started to slowly lower my rifle. When I lowered my rifle, it too uncurled its lip, in conjunction with me lowering the gun. I thought, this is my chance. I want to leave peacefully, with none of us getting hurt. At this point, I notice it's clearly looking past me and behind me. So I moved very slowly and leaned the .30-06 up against a small tree. I closed my eyes and turned around, putting myself at this thing's mercy. I count to 5 in my head. All I hear at this point in time is this thing just taking off, breaking small trees and stuff. And it sounded so fast, and I just got out of there. I used to be a solo hunter and trekked for kilometers at a time. I even hunted at night, as I'm on a reserve for First Nations. Hunting was my greatest passion, but after this, I can't hunt anymore, especially at night. I will still go out in the daytime, but now all I think about are these 2 encounters. It's taken the joy of hunting away, knowing that these things are out there, and I have to keep my head on a swivel. I refuse to go back to that area. I mean, 3 strikes and you're out, you know? This has changed my worldview fundamentally. What else is out there? I would be willing to undergo hypnosis, take a lie detector test, anything. Why? To advance our understanding and knowledge of these things. I put these stories out there for educational purposes and to provide warning. These things are out there, and they don't look friendly. Interestingly enough, my reservation is directly adjacent to a provincial park. Coincidence or not, I don't know. So thanks for reading, Biker. Use my name if you want to. Signed, John. And that concludes this collection of captivating Bigfoot and Sasquatch encounters. Thank you so much for joining me tonight and being a part of this fascinating journey. If you have any personal encounters or stories that you'd like to share, let me know in the comments down below. And please, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the unexplained and the unsolved. So until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker, out.